I think that the Bitcoin seasonality is about to flip bullish, and that's going to be highly dependent on all of the important economic data we have coming out in like the next upcoming days and weeks. So it's going to be absolutely massive, and in today's update video I will be giving a deep dive into this economic data we have upcoming, and of course the Bitcoin seasonality, and why I do think this cycle and Bitcoin is going to be heading next. We will take a deep dive into towards much more than only that, like all of the most important Bitcoin price data, the latest news hitting the markets, and a big update on my Ethereum trading position, and of course a deeper dive into towards the Ethereum and altcoin charts themselves. So from there guys, make sure to first of all subscribe to the channel and watch and like my latest YouTube videos, and then we can dive in towards the most important content. Since the Bitcoin seasonality is at a pivotal turning point, because this is the exact moment where the Bitcoin cycle of 2021 and also 2017 saw a major turning point. We've coming into September not dumping but actually holding up quite strong, because September is now a positive month for Bitcoin, so that is actually looking quite good, and this was going to be the pivotal turning point in those last post-halving year cycles before seeing a major rally higher. But I don't think the seasonality is the only important factor we have here, because I do actually think that all of this economic data coming out in like the next few days and weeks is going to be super important for the markets. Today we have the initial jobless claims dropping. Tomorrow we have the non-farm payrolls and the unemployment rate dropping. And September the 11th and 17th we have the CPI data coming out, and eventually the FOMC rate cut decision. And all of this data is so important because it will have an effect on the FOMC rate decision. And if we are going to see rate cuts like the market is now expecting, we could be expecting a huge rally for Bitcoin and crypto higher, exactly lining up with the seasonality, moving towards that cycle top, which always occurs in the ending stage of the post-halving year, that blow off top basically in Q4. So that is looking quite interesting. And like stated, most traders are now pricing in rate cuts for the next FOMC meeting. So that's also why we saw quite a positive reaction for crypto yesterday. And the most important data, in my opinion, coming out are of course today the initial jobless claims, but most importantly, and that's also going to be the most important event of this month in my opinion, tomorrow we have the non-farm payrolls and the unemployment rate coming out. And that's going to be super important data for the outlook of the US labor market. And if that outlook is going to be weak, I'm definitely expecting that rate cuts to go through, and the market is now expecting a weak labor market here basically because they are pricing in rate cuts. So that's actually looking quite good. And today the initial jobless claims will give us somewhat of a first insight on how the US labor market is looking. So quite excited about exactly that. But now I do want to discuss some Bitcoin price action also, because Bitcoin still has this massive CME gap also above it. So that's also another reason for me that I do think Bitcoin could be finding strength to move higher actually quite soon here, because these CME gaps tend to fill up like 95% of the times. So I don't think it's going to be any different this time. Bitcoin is now perfectly bouncing off the bull market support band. This is, like stated in a few of my previous videos, an important support level for me. If you're going to break below the bull market support band, I could be looking in towards some lower Bitcoin price action, but I don't think this is likely for now because we are seeing such a nice reaction exactly on that bull market support band. So that's looking quite good, but just in case we could be breaking lower, then you are looking in that moving average 50 trend line in my opinion to see where the next important Bitcoin support is going to be laying. Also on the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, we have most of the liquidity still stacking up at the top side, and that in combination with still the CME gap which is also laying above us, I do think Bitcoin is going to catch up to the top side quite soon here. We also have gold now exploding to the top side with the global liquidity, but the global liquidity is of course on the offset here. But also with gold now exploding to the top side, usually when gold does so, Bitcoin tends to follow afterwards, and that doesn't happen just in a few days, but normally once Bitcoin starts moving higher, Bitcoin tends to form a bottom and then eventually catches up with gold later, and then gold start consolidating again. So also gold now exploding to the top side basically, because this is quite a large move again. I do think that's going to be another bullish fact for Bitcoin. With that CME gap in mind, with the liquidity in mind, I do actually think that Bitcoin is looking good, and definitely for like the next few months, because I do think, and I have been saying that for a long time on the channel, that Q4 is going to be absolutely massive. I also do think, like stated earlier, that this September dump could be over already, because this is a chart we have been talking about a lot. In 2017, we saw a huge dump in September. We saw the same in 2021. But the difference this time for September was that we started dumping before September even started, and then started moving to the top side. Of course, we could still see like a little dump in September, but I don't think it will be a huge crash to the downside. Potentially creating a lower low, that could be the case, but then I do think like 105, 106,000 US dollars is going to be the ultimate bottom. I don't see Bitcoin moving much lower for now, but of course we also have that Bitcoin bull market support band to keep exactly our eyes on that, because yeah, it could be grabbing some liquidity under it and then eventually moving higher. But basically the charts are looking quite bullish in my opinion for Bitcoin currently, so that's why I'm not that worried about the seasonality in September at this exact moment. And like we talked about before, we have all this important economic data coming up. For me, the data about the employment market is going to be the most important, but we also have this CPI data coming out on September the 11th. I will be live streaming all of these events on my channel. I've planned in the first live stream for tomorrow, so if you're interested in how all of this economic data is going to play out, just make sure to come and watch these live streams on the channel. It would be highly appreciated, and then I will see you guys also over there in the live stream, because this is going to be so important for the markets. Now I do want to give a big update on my Ethereum trading position, because like stated, I did take one Ethereum trade here, almost 15,000 US dollars, just in a very small profit now. It's very close to my entry basically, and I still have a lot of open limit orders, because I am still open for the possibility, also because Ethereum is showing a little bit more weakness than Bitcoin in my opinion, that Ethereum could be moving down. And if that is going to be the case, I don't say it's going to happen, but if that is going to be the case, then I have some limit orders set up here, and I think I could be making a huge profit moving into towards Q4. So if the market is going to see downside, I'm prepared, and if it is not going to be the case, I do have this trade open where I'm also going to make some quite nice money on if we are eventually going to move higher. So basically I'm prepared for the market moving both sides, and I will be updating about this trade in my VIP Telegram group, so make sure to check that group out if you're getting interested in that. You can find it with the link in the description on this update video, and you can join the group over there. And let's look into our set Ethereum liquidation heat map, because for Ethereum, yes, a lot of liquidity is also stacking up at the top side, but liquidation heat map for Ethereum does look a bit weaker than Bitcoin's in my opinion, because we also have a lot of liquidity here stacking up at the downside. So for me, it's quite hard to be predicting like the next Ethereum direction here, but I must say most of the liquidity is also stacking up at the top side. Ethereum on the price action side is actually looking quite interesting, because we have this retest of the breakout, and that is also exactly something we saw earlier in this downtrend before this massive spike higher after that Powell speech actually. So quite interesting. Also there we saw the breakout, then the retest, and then the big push higher. So that is actually quite interesting, and if history is going to repeating here, we could see a big move higher for Ethereum quite soon here. Basically an update on my Ethereum positions here. I did take a lot of profits at the conservative target on my spot holding. I do think Ethereum is going to move towards that bull case target here in Q4, and in that period from the conservative target towards the bull case target, in that phase of the market, I do think the money to be made with altcoins, and of course also with an Ethereum trade, is going to be absolutely insane, and I do think that's going to be happening in Q4. I'm still quite bullish on exactly that fact. Ethereum versus Bitcoin still has a lot of potential left, just look at how big the move is going to be. If you assume we could be moving towards the range high levels, for example. But I must say, I do think in Q4 altcoins are going to take the spotlights. We have the others versus E chart, which we discussed a lot on the channel, now bottoming out. So altcoins are starting to outperform Ethereum, and that is of course super important here because Ethereum saw such a big move higher, basically outperforming altcoins by a lot, and now altcoins are bouncing back up. So that is also showing strength. Not only versus Ethereum altcoins are showing strength, but also versus Bitcoin with this golden crossover on the others versus Bitcoin chart, which is also looking hugely bullish in my opinion. It's not an altcoin season yet, but we are definitely getting quite close now. So this is probably going to be one of your last moments, one of your last opportunities to be accumulating altcoins quite cheaply here. So make sure to make use of exactly that, guys. And that was it for today's update video. I hope you guys enjoyed today's update video, and I will see you guys within the next update video tomorrow.